Hi, my name is Solomon Tesfaye, and I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my novel titled In Between Worlds. Hannah's only desire had been to leave the camp, to be free, to go down the winding paths of the mountain where the camp stood, enclosed behind barbed wire and brick walls on top of a mountain, and visit the city below. She was only 6, but in her mind, she was old enough to roam the world beyond the camp's gates. She tried before and failed, but she has a better plan now. There, it was always there, and there it was, like a lighthouse standing tall on the shore, the city made of marble and cement with banks, factories, and a school with kids her age. Not like the camp, which was the sort of place that her uncle said could be taken down and evacuated in a matter of minutes. A monument to the struggle of displacement, with its flapping tents whirring with dust and rows of cots and sagging mattresses embracing weary bodies. A place where curious buds poke their heads to the topsoil, into the suspicious heat, only to be rebuked at night by sudden frosts. Her uncle's stories from their visits to the markets made the allure of the city even greater. And when they told these stories, they handled them as one would a child. They teased it, they punished it, they threw it high up in the air, they wrestled it to the ground and let it go again. They told stories of a blind man with a cheetah on a leash and girls dancing barefoot, moving their arms, half hidden by their veils and half revealed. Stories that praised the flesh of camel meat cooked over fires of seasoned cherry wood and sprinkled with sweet oil. Stories of old men with the odor of elephants after the rain, and no story was repeated. Each tale came with a new discovery about the city, which, unlike the camp, where the inhabitants repeated the same scenes, the same speeches, greeted by mouths open in identical yawns and lives lived in concentric circles. The camp, where behind the fragile facade of greenery lived oppressive people who could gather at a moment's notice. But Hannah wasn't allowed to visit the city below on account of her being 6 years old. And she wasn't allowed to go with her parents or uncles either on account of them being paranoid. On her daily walks with her mother, past the resentful old tents tinged brown with envy, past the ration shops that sold rice, and past the clothes and tattered flags that hung in bunches from the roof, and past the mustard streaks of poop near the bushes, she saw the harbor where the docks were high over black water that slammed against the retaining walls, where the stone steps were made slippery by seaweed, and the sight of someone sliding and falling always made her laugh. From their vantage point above the city, she could make out people's diminished forms, women wearing shawls and men wearing turbans over their heads, climbing up boats and vessels, saying their farewells as the ships carried their wishes on board. Those remaining behind said that for some, their wishes would return to them with the tide. For others, they would just sail forever. And each day they saw ships coming and going, but never saw the same ship come back, as if the city below only knew departures. Now returns. Just like the camp, where no one ever returned once they left. And each day Hannah turned her eyes away in resignation, her own wishes mocked by the wind and the sight of children going on an endless adventure beyond the horizon. Outside her parents' tent, Uncle Ibrahim and Uncle Asafau bickered as they traded opinions with her father on the latest political events in Ethiopia. Stuff they heard on the radio, at the cafe, their only tangible connection to life back home. Meanwhile, Hannah sat on a crate inside the tent, drawing the shapes and symbols of Arabic letters her father was teaching her with a branch, bored out of her mind and looking for her next adventure. They call themselves the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, but there is nothing democratic about them, Uncle Ibrahim grieved. Also, the title is just too long. That's how you know the new government is a mess. They can't even get the name right. Uncle Ibrahim had a habit of carefully inspecting his palms and biting his nails while talking about politics, and Hannah saw him doing that now through the slant opening of the tent. It had been a week since Hannah's last adventure where she tried to ride a donkey up the mountain by herself. And before that, she'd stole tangerines from Khalid's fruit stand because to get food here, residents had to join a long queue. And the more crowded the camp got, the less food there was to go around. It was especially unbearable in the summer months. So many bodies, so close to one another. Food was a rare treat, too expensive a luxury. Fed up with always being the one asking for things they couldn't afford, Hannah had resorted to stealing from Khalid's stand. She didn't feel bad about it. Khalid was what her uncle Ibrahim would call an asshole. As she thought. He was notorious for his high prices and disdainful attitude towards his customers, exploiting their reluctance to travel to town for cheaper goods. His character matched his appearance: buck teeth, a crooked smile, with loose flesh that stretched willingly off his bones like chewing gum. Khalid also harbored a dislike for the Habesha people in the camp, despite his own mixed Ethiopian and Yemeni heritage. A part of his identity he seemed to deny as vehemently as his own integrity. So no, Hannah didn't feel guilty stealing from him, and she got away with it easily, too easily for it to really count as an adventure in her mind. The real adventure was in the city below.